back up the ICJ's verdict and demand an immediate and absolute ceasefire for starters. The ICJ could only legally go so far in its order to stop further harm, but the international community of nations, legal and human rights organizations, and the United Nations itself can go much further in enforcing not only a ceasefire, but the immediate restoration of all life and human services to Gaza and the West Bank as well. It can also enforce the release of all prisoners held by the Zionist offensive forces. This Zionist genocidal ethnic cleansing campaign did not start in October. The Palestinian people have suffered over 75 years of this by the settler colonial Zionist regime. It is time for the entire Palestinian diaspora to be able to return home to Palestine, along with the keys to their Palestinian homes, which many families retain to this day. Allowed New York, New Jersey, the Palestine Right to Return Coalition, along with the Palestinian Assembly for Liberation, and working in conjunction with the Shut It Down for Palestine Coalition, will continue incessantly to press for the full and complete liberation and return of the Palestinian people in Gaza, the West Bank, and the entire Palestinian diaspora. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Fahad Ahmed from Daisy's Rising Up and Moving, or DRUM.
Good morning. My name is Fahad Ahmed, and I'm the Executive Director of DRUM, Daisy's Rising Up and Moving. We organize working-class South Asian and Indo-Caribbean people in New York City, people that come from formerly colonized countries, many of whom have experienced not only colonization, but also genocide, ethnic cleansing. And so for us and our communities, it's always been clear, definitely for the last 3 months, but over the last decades, that Israel is an occupying state that is committing, if not genocide, then ethnic cleansing. And in the last 3 months, it's become abundantly, unequivocally clear that Israel was committing genocide, as stated both by the intent of Israeli leaders across the board, across the spectrum. And so there was already a moral imperative for us as communities, for us as governments, as local and state and federal elected officials, to take a stand against genocide. But with the ICJ ruling this morning, we now have a legal imperative to stand against genocide, to stop the arming of Israel, to stop the funding of Israel, to stop the political support of Israel on the international level. And the imperative now is on elected officials and on the government to call for a ceasefire, to end the occupation, and to end the support of this occupying entity that has decimated the Palestinian people and the region for the past 7 decades. As people of South Asia, as people from across the Caribbean, we stand unequivocally in solidarity with the Palestinian people, with the South African case against Israel for genocide, and for Palestinian liberation today and forever. Free, free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fahad. Next, we have Eugene Perrier from the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Eugene Perrier from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Al-Auda, the Right to Return Coalition of New Jersey and New York, and the Palestinian Assembly for Liberation for bringing this august group of people together to speak on what we have seen from the International Court of Justice. I think it's very important to note here that the representative of the United States, John Kirby, had previously stated that the South African submission was meritless and completely without basis in fact. We can see now that his assertion then was completely and totally false. That was clear when he made the assertion, and it's even more clear now after the International Court of Justice has agreed to continue with the case. All of this, from our point of view, shows very clearly that the United States has been complicit in genocide from the very beginning. Nearly 100,000 Palestinians have been killed or wounded, if you include those who are still trapped under the rubble. The United States has abrogated even its own laws around human rights in order to send huge amounts of weapons, bombs, to push forward this genocidal action. And now we can see that their complicity at least has the possibility to be held accountable. We call on the United States, we call on all governments around the world to act in direct accordance with this ruling. There is no way, as Naledi Pandor, the South African foreign minister, stated today, that the ruling put forward, the provisional measures put forward, can be actually complied with without a ceasefire immediately, without an end to the genocide and a massive ramping up and increase in humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Anything less than that will clearly be a continuation of genocide. The ongoing comments, even what we've heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu, continue the incitement already laid out by South Africa. All individuals who continue to aid the genocide are complicit, will be held accountable, and millions of people around the world will continue to rise up to make these points incessantly until there is justice and liberation for the Palestinian people. We think this is an incredibly important decision today. Unfortunately, we think the lack of a direct call for a ceasefire does in fact continue to show the double standard that exists in international institutions, because we've seen them issue similar calls in other cases. But nonetheless, it has been stated that the actions of Israel in Palestine are of a character that they are genocidal, and that those who are complicit will be held accountable. So we call on the United States right away to end all of its complicity with the genocide, to end all support for Israel over all time, and we of course reaffirm our belief that Palestine must be free, apartheid must be ended, and self-determination must be granted. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eugene. Next, we have Attorney Lamise Beek, founder of the PAL Commission on War Crimes, Justice, Reparations, and Return. And Lamise is also the co-convener of the Global Legal Alliance. Lamise?
Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us here today. This is really a momentous moment in history, not just the history of Palestine, but the history of the world. After 75 years of a cruel, coordinated campaign, not just by the Israeli government, but by Western powers, we witness today the beginning of the collapse of a brutal and barbaric campaign to normalize the demonization and the dehumanization of Palestinian people. While we share the dismay of our South African colleagues regarding the lack of an immediate cease and desist order, we note that the measures and the language of the court today cannot be understated in its importance. Most notably, the court found that there is plausible genocide. And this puts the onus not just on those in the international system like the ICC, but on local, state, federal, and national governments across the world to ensure that their very nationals, their citizens, are also, in the words of the ICJ today, prevented from and punished for their roles in war crimes and genocide in Palestine, and most notably, especially for the media today, punishment for the incitement to genocide against Palestinians. And we remind the media that rhetoric and linguistic acrobatics are also prosecutable. We call on attorneys who know that laws are not self-executing to stand up and take their role as attorneys, as officers of the court, and ensure the implementation and the execution and the documentation of all those forces, from the Department of Justice to the Department of State to the judges to the media who incite and mobilize for the genocide against Palestinians through this rhetoric and otherwise. We are watching and reminding yet again, and we give notice and demand to Genocide Joe and Butcher, Blinken, and all members of Congress that do not get comfortable. The standard today has increased. Your responsibility and accountability today has increased. And if for a moment you think that you can rest comfortably for the delays of the ICC, we assure you that neither sovereignty nor silence protect you from sanctions in courts across the world. We remind you that there are jurisdictions in friendly governments where criminal courts will issue warrants for your arrest. And where that fails, we also assure you that we intend to prosecute you civilly everywhere we go. The genocide propagandists who have laid waste not just to Palestinians in Gaza and throughout Palestine, but to Arabs across the Middle East for the past 75 years, are also not immune. The ICJ decision today empowers the formation of independent and state-sponsored tribunals, which will resurrect the likes of the Nuremberg tribunals and bring an end to the gross contradictions we've seen in the international system at the behest of Western powers who thought that they could carve out an inherently genocidal exception for the settler colonization of Palestine. The era of erasure and diabolical racist demonization by outlets and media all over the world today, we promise you, has come to an end. We tell our people in Palestine that we stand with you lock and step. We thank you for your sacrifices, which are not just to save Palestine, but to save the whole of humanity and the international system from a decline into darkness, and to bring an end to the era where the meek are dominated and mass murdered by the mighty. It was as of December 29th that the ICJ had made these filings. Since December 29th, we have seen the most vicious torture carried out in Gaza, extrajudicial assassinations of families evacuating on live stream before our eyes. We are not only hopeful and prepared for what will happen next following these provisional measures, but what will happen throughout the merits hearings of this case. We said previously that neither the PAL Commission nor the Global Legal Alliance speak empty words. For the past several months, and as I stand here speaking, hundreds of lawyers across the world, not just looking at international courts, but looking and parsing through every regulatory, civil, administrative, and financial laws in their domestic jurisdictions in countries all over the world, prepared to ensure that every insider, from Richie Torres to Mayor Adams to Governor Hochul to the whole lot of the New York Times and the barbaric BBC, are held to account for their crimes. We say again that the era of speaking words without action has come to an end, and we will take our marching orders from the people of Palestine and the ICJ. We will see you on the streets and in the courthouses all over the world.
Thank you, Lamise. That was Lamise Deek, Lamisdeek. And our next speaker is going to be a great leader in the Jewish community, Rabbi David Feldman of Neturei Karta International, Jews United Against Zionism. This is Rabbi David Feldman, D-O-V-I-D, Feldman. Rabbi Feldman.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Rabbi David Feldman, and we are here after these over 100 days of genocide taking place in Gaza. We are so appreciative to the government of South Africa to stand up and to be brave to get the State of Israel accountable for all the crimes it's being committed. After we are seeing the progress in the ICJ, we are definitely hoping that this goes in the right direction, but we have to be clear, regardless what the ICJ decides on the exact terminology, we have to realize and remember that the entire world agrees that Israel is criminal. From the very first day, it has committed terrorism against the Palestinian people, and we should not lose track. Another point, what is unfortunately being used in Zionist propaganda to confuse the masses is the concept of anti-Semitism. Whoever criticizes Israel is anti-Semitic. We have to realize and understand that there is nothing anti-Semitic about condemning or criticizing crimes committed by people, even if those people happen to be from, embarrassingly enough, from Jewish descent. Palestine never had a problem with the Jewish people, neither does the pro-Palestinian movement today. Publicly they said all the time and still say they have nothing against the Jewish people, neither against the Jewish religion. We have to remember the great difference between Judaism and Zionism, which is diametrically opposed. Judaism is a religion, Zionism is a political movement, should never be confused. Unfortunately, we are witnessing this genocide in Gaza now. It's not only now for this over 3 months, it is already for decades, it's over 75 years. This has to stop. Obviously, we need an immediate ceasefire, but the ceasefire is way not enough. We need a total dismantlement of this occupation, of this oppression of an entire people, in order to be able to see a peace for all, where all people will be able to live in peace as we did before this movement of Zionism started. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Feldman. Next, we have Sophie Ritchie speaking on behalf of the Palestinian Assembly for Liberation.
We are here today to thank the noble South Africa for standing up against the genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. This genocide committed by Israel has officially been documented in the International Court of Justice. We are here today to call on the rest of the international community in its entirety to stand up against the atrocities that Israel is committing against the Palestinians in Gaza. Over 1,000 Palestinian children in Gaza have had limb amputations, mostly performed without anesthesia. Palestinians are being starved and forced to use animal feed to make bread to feed their families. Approximately 25,000 Palestinian children have become orphans since the beginning of this genocide. My Palestinian family in the West Bank is watching this genocide in Gaza in horror. They know that if Israel is not stopped, they will be next. We call on the international community to hold Israel accountable, not just for this current genocide in Gaza, but for over 75 years of apartheid, occupation, and settler colonialism in Palestine.
Thank you, Sophie. Next, we have Najla Faz from the Pal Aldo Mothers Committee.
My name is Najla Faz, member of Pal Mothers Committee and a Palestinian from Gaza. I am here today with the utmost respect for South Africa, because it has stood on the correct side of history, elevating the Palestinian people and advocating for their fundamental human rights, basic human rights. South Africa, I give you my salutations. Unlike any other nation, you demonstrated courage and empathy for the Palestinian people. We are prepared to do everything is necessary to restore Palestinian freedom. When people are being denied fundamental human rights, human needs, and there is a genocide taking place, nobody can stay silent. We must always speak up against racism, prejudice, in all of its manifestations, as well as against oppression, imperialism, and colonialism. To support Palestine is to be human. To support Palestine is to be a person. We cannot consent to being silenced. We are not allowed to give up on Palestine. I am not allowed to give up on my aunts, uncles, and family in Gaza. We need to keep up and to speak up for them, no matter how helpless you may feel. We must not give up on them, and we must continue to speak out for the living and the deceased in Gaza. We appreciate your presence and ask that you keep up the demonstrations, the speaking out, boycotting, and doing whatever it is that you are to support the people of Palestine. NAJLAKHASS.
We'll take questions. You can direct your questions to any of the speakers. Does anybody have any questions?
That they will continue prosecuting the war. Any reaction, any surprise?
Not surprised at all. They made this clear several weeks ago when they said verbatim, The Hague will not stop us. What this means is that the onus is on third states, including the United States, the UK, France, Germany, which has earlier today or yesterday stated that it will comply by the ICJ orders to act. Previously, the Security Council has authorized military action. We would expect that the U.S. would veto this, but we are very hopeful, having met with several governments, about their intention to implement meaningful measures to help stop the genocide in Gaza. So yeah, it's expected, but we also expect a rapid and powerful response to that as well. I'm sorry. For the attorneys, we have been documenting everything from the statements made by media and government officials, dual nationals, including U.S., British, French, and Belgian citizens who participated in the genocide in Palestine, companies that have been complicit, direct aid, and this team, which is literally hundreds of lawyers, has expanded. Some of our colleagues yesterday met with the ICC prosecutors to ensure that arrest warrants will be going out. We'll be monitoring the ICC's compliance with its own mandate in this regard. The organizers and activists in New York and across the U.S. and the world are now more empowered, right, in their actions and to escalate those actions to really pressure their governments, but also civil society, which has been funding and mobilizing genocide in Palestine. And we're not just talking about the escalated point of genocide now, but the 75 years of incremental genocide, which the Israeli officials have themselves identified as such in 2014, I believe, calling it a little Shoah, which is the Hebrew word for Holocaust, as to what they plan for Palestinians. This is verbatim from the Israelis almost 10 years ago. In civil society, we have coordinated a coalition that works with unions and civil society that represent tens of millions of people. When we leave government meetings or courtrooms, we pick up the phones and we call them and we say, mobilize in your communities, in your countries for these measures, whether they are grassroots, legal, or governmental. So we are all literally in lockstep to ensure the implementation of the prevention and the punishment of genocide. Any further questions? absolutely, for the immediate purposes, the demands are very clear, right? And the demands are the release of all hostages. I think it should also be epically clear now that the illegal kangaroo colonial system that the Israelis have implemented to justify their torture, which is at a rate of 97 to 99%. This means physical torture and sexual torture as policy and as law has been invalidated, which means that the demand for the release of every Palestinian hostage, man, woman, and child from Zionist dungeons is a valid demand which we support, alongside the release of the Israeli hostages as well, and an immediate ceasefire. That does not stop our work as attorneys to prevent the future genocide, which Israelis, including civil society, including settler organizations in New York, have indicated they intend to participate in. For God's sakes, these are people who have license to operate in New York, who are buying pieces of property in which Palestinian bodies remain in the rubble, and yet they're allowed to roam freely. Our work does not end. Our task force for reparations and accountability for every Zionist institution of violence from New York and Palestine is a permanent task force. Our work as attorneys, in coordination with civil society, in coordination with governments, continues and is here until justice is had. So this, we believe, thank you for your question, is an important beginning, but it does not mark the end of our work, but rather the escalation of our work on the grassroots and on the legal level.
State your name again, please.
Sure. Lamis Deek, L-A-M-I-S-D-E-E-K, with the PAL Commission on War Crimes, Justice, Reparations, and Return. I see no further questions. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time. Let me speak with the PAL Commission on War Crimes, Justice, Reparations, and Return. I don't know where it goes. Thank you, rabbis. You're just amazing. All wonderful ways. I actually already
I didn't realize that was yours.
All right, guys. So that was the press conference here near the United Nations.
Do you know how many times a day I hospitalize? Yeah, I roll out of bed at work. I roll into bed.
I'm gonna just get myself situated here, and then I will go and try and get some interviews.
You know, and I'm sorry I can't show up Sunday. Maybe Father should show me to a nice energy.
Kim schnell schei, also lohnt. Nein, also irgendwie, noch nicht hinter ihm.
So,
I didn't know that they were using you.
what would be your message to pro-Israel Jews in America after this decision?
Well, my message to pro-Israeli people after this decision of the ICJ is not very much different than our message always. But now it's just getting to a new escalation, to a new level where people have to take things more serious. To pro-Israelis, I'm saying that in addition to all these crimes that Israel is committing against the Palestinian people, which is atrocious, which is terrible, which is disastrous, and as human beings we should never allow this to happen, and as Jewish people we should be the people of justice, we should be the people of kindness, we should be the people of compassion, we should be that Judaism teaches us. And you know, the movement of Zionism from the very beginning was an uprooting of Judaism, it was a rebellion against Judaism, and so much crimes towards other people. But in addition to all of this occupation of Palestine is causing so much danger to the Jewish people. When you have an entire people being oppressed, you have to face reality, what reaction is going to be. No one appreciates reaction. Nobody chooses reaction. Nobody wants reaction. And I don't condone any reaction, but we have to understand that what happened so far is sadly, unfortunately, tragically expected, and God forbid what can happen in the future. Unless we stop this occupation, unless we stop this oppression, unless we disassociate ourselves from this occupying power, then unfortunately all of us are incorporated into this conflict, and we end up being accountable to all what is taking place, and we are unfortunately facing hatred and sadly this bloodshed going on. We are seeing this endless cycle of bloodshed for decades. We have to realize where all of this comes from. Again, I'm not condoning any violence, I'm just facing reality. And I always say, identifying with the state of Israel, holding an Israeli flag, in addition to what this is supporting crimes, this is encouraging so much death and destruction to the Jewish people as well. For the sake of everyone involved, we have to disassociate ourselves from Israel. We have to stop all these crimes. We have to turn back to God, to the Jewish religion, and to our tradition. Let's have back the peace and security that we did have in Palestine before 100 years ago. This can be the future, should be the future. We have to stop the obstacle to peace, the occupation of Palestine.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. I'll see you later.
You're welcome.
May I ask you which
Status Coup.
which Status Coup is joining? Oh, yeah.
Would you mind doing an interview? With who? My name is John. I'm with Status Coup.
Okay. Let's see. I'm both a member of JVP and a communist. Which would you like?
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me just get set up here. So, just kind of tell me, what's your reaction to the International Court of Justice decision today?
Well, I think actually the International Court of Justice, like the United Nations, has no actual power. So it's really not very significant in terms of stopping the killing that's going on. I think it might be most useful to students and workers who've been being harassed by their bosses in universities for being pro-Palestinian, who can now point to this decision, amongst others, as a declaration of horror that actually is genocide, and therefore maybe protect themselves from being attacked for agreeing with the World Court. But I don't see it as having any real effect in Gaza. I think this is a major imperialist struggle and involving control of oil rights and power and pipelines and growing alliance between Iran and China versus the United States and its allies, Europe, and I think it's going to require a mass international movement of working people to refuse to fight in these wars and unite with each other and not be won over to nationalism or racism in order to make any real change. So that's a long-range perspective, and I just fear that it's going to erupt into World War III or major war before any real revolutionary antagonism to it is possible. But I think that's the perspective we have to have.
Absolutely. And what would be your message to American Jews who are pro-Israel? What would be your message to them after this decision?
Well, I've been to Israel quite a few times, unfortunately, and originated in a Zionist family. And I think that Israeli Jews and Zionist Jews around the world are fed such a steady diet of racism and inaccurate views of history that I think it's very hard for them, impossible for them to even recognize the truth of what's going on, because it's clearly the racism and oppression of Palestinians from the founding of Israel that has created this situation. And I hope that some of them, I mean, there are a few people in Israel and of course many Jews around the world who recognize the injustice and the horror and the racism of what's happening. And I hope some Zionists will begin to think that recreating a Holocaust against others is not the proper solution. But there's a reason why starting in kindergarten, Israelis are filled with anti-Arab racism, and there's a problem with the way they're taught to view anti-Semitism, not just as a form of racism that's been used to excuse governments and justify horrors around the world, but that anti-Semitism is different than anti-black racism or anti-Armenian racism, and that it's inborn somehow and cannot be overcome. And Jews cannot see themselves as aligning with other people of the world to fight racism. And they also, many people in Israel actually feel the need to question the services and they get from the government. Like I was there in 2011 when there were mass demonstrations because of lack of health care and housing and schooling that was adequate. And yet they didn't relate this to the occupation. They didn't talk about the money that was being spent or the racism or nationalism that allowed it to happen. And so they're actually losing not only their own chance for safety, but their own chance for a better life in Israel by relying on this racist narrative.
Absolutely. One more question. So, all we hear from President Biden is about the grave threat to American democracy, but he is silent on what the International Court now acknowledges may be a genocide the U.S. is aiding. What do you think about this?
Well, President Biden has a long history of defending imperialist interests, of defending racism, of defending anti-immigrant policies, and he's a representative of American capitalism. And so it may be an awkward moment for him, but I don't think it's going to change anything.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Do you like my red newspaper?
Sure. Yes. Thank you.
No, we're not. We share
You're probably sick.
I didn't want to put you on.
No, it's not
I know you spoke before, but just kind of tell me your thoughts and feelings on the ICJ's decision today.
I mean, it is definitely a first step. It's a big step, actually, for us. It's something new. The people of Palestine feel like they are cared for. They're being somewhat heard. And that's why I definitely want it. And I did say, I salute you, South Africa, for standing up on the right side of history, for standing up for the people of Palestine, for standing up and wanting to make what's wrong right. And our mission is definitely to make the people of Gaza, the people of Palestine feel like they are cared for. It's a first step. It's not the step that we were looking for, but we will be holding accountable for Israel for committing this genocide, for the people of Gaza, for starving them, for murdering them, for killing innocent children, not just starting October 7th, but prior to October 7th. I myself have witnessed these cruelty from IDF soldiers when I was a child back in Gaza, and till this day, as a 43-year-old woman, looking at them and seeing them on TV or even a picture of them brings back so much pain and so much bad memories. Going back as far as being an 8-year-old walking to school and enduring their cruelty to the children of Palestine. And I'm looking forward to hearing better results in our, the next step coming forward, and looking for a free Palestine and looking to see my family back into their home, being warm and eating normal food.
So, President Biden talks so much about the threat to American democracy. Meanwhile, they're aiding this genocide. What are your thoughts about that?
My profession is settling refugees in the state of in America. One thing that I want to say to President Biden: let's take care of our own before taking care of other people's situations. Let's not worry about what Israel is worrying about. Worry about our own people. Worry about the homelessness that we have, the amount of refugees we have in America, the amount of situations that we have here in America, and take it from there. Let everybody else deal with their own situations. In other words, in plain English, mind your own business. Let's mind our own business. Let's take care of what we have here in America before going and try to take care of other people's situations.
Right, because if the U.S. says to Israel to stop, and they're going to cut off the aid, exactly. Israel is powerless, basically, without the U.S.
Exactly. Again, in plain English, America, President Biden, you have control. You are able to say stop. You are able to say go. And as we see it, all we are seeing is go and green lights to kill Palestinians, innocent children. And that is why you are called Genocide Joe. You are a very big part of this genocide, Mr. Biden.
One more question. Do you see this decision shifting minds here in America among more pro-Israel people or folks who haven't been paying much attention?
I think this decision definitely opened people's mind to, you don't see it, it's right in front of your eyes. Innocent children are being killed and you're still not going to stop it. I think it's a good sign for many people to open their eyes, not just to the Gaza situation, but to many other situations. Whereas you're trying to blindfold the citizens of the United States and trying to not let them see the truth. We see the truth. The Americans see the truth. Other countries and nations see the truth. But what's best for our leaders is greed, money, on the cost of innocent civilians, innocent Palestinians. But we will continue to show you and guide you to see the truth, and hoping one day our leaders see the truth. Hoping one day you open your eyes, you unfold what's covering your eyes, and that's greed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for always coming and showing up. You are, God bless. It means a lot. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
We're good. She's in front of us.
I'm gonna go see what's going on over there.
You can't take free Palestine.
That's German.
German missiles across on this side. Yeah. Are you guys going to All right, guys, so across the street over here, there's a rally going on. We're going to keep this live stream going for a little while because then I have another protest to cover at 3 p.m. outside of the APAC headquarters. But smash that like button. I haven't got to talk to you guys. Smash that like button, share the stream, subscribe to this channel. I'll be busy the next few days, so you'll want to get the notifications for when we go live. So today is day 112. So 112 days into this genocide. The numbers are 26,000 Palestinians have been killed. Over 10,000 of those are children.
You're supporting genocide! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Genocide is a crime! From the Holocaust to Palestine! Genocide is a crime! From the Holocaust to Palestine! Guys, let's remind them that genocide is a crime. Genocide is a crime! From the Holocaust to Palestine! Genocide is a crime! From the Holocaust to Palestine! Genocide is a crime! From the Holocaust to Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Alright, so this building across the street is the Germany's mission to the UN. I think that's what it's called.
The German-US mission is not awake yet. In case Germany is not awake yet, we'll do one more chant in German. So, Guten Morgen, Deutschland! Can we all say Deutschland? Deutschland! We're going to say stop the genocide. Which in German is stoppt den Völkermord. So Deutschland stoppt den Völkermord. Let's do a repeat after me. Deutschland stoppt den Völkermord. Deutschland stoppt den Völkermord. Deutschland stoppt den Völkermord. Deutschland stoppt den Völkermord. And we will do one more. Germany is supporting a genocide of Palestinians and of children. So we will be saying Kindermord. Kinder means children. So stoppt den Kindermord. Deutschland!
Deutschland!
Stoppt den Kindermord!
Stoppt den Kindermord!
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 Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start with our speak out. So just as a reminder, please gather in from the sides. There's also a building right in front of us, and people will be entering, so come ahead and gather a little bit closer.
Free, free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free, 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 free Palestine!
Okay, our first speaker is one of our organizers and is reading a statement speaking on behalf of our organizers. So please welcome our organizer.
Hi, good morning. We come together here today as people with ties to Germany, as citizens, survivors of the Holocaust, descendants of survivors of the German Holocaust of the Jews, the Holocaust, and as Namibian victims of the first genocide of the 20th century, perpetrated by Germany, and as Palestinians targeted by a genocide that is ongoing right now, and in which the German government is complicit, and which it actively supports. To that, we say, Germany, stop supporting the genocide of the Palestinian people. Stop supporting the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Stop supporting the ongoing genocide, the campaign of ethnic cleansing. The campaign of ethnic cleansing, the murders in the West Bank. Stop supporting it by giving Israel unconditional support. Stop supporting the genocide in Gaza with money, weapons, and stop supporting it by categorically denying even the possibility of genocide taking place. And because there was a court trial this morning, the court imposed some provisional measures that Israel is supposed to be following, must follow. We say the German government must insist with all its power and its influence that these measures are followed and that the genocide stops immediately. I grew up in Germany. I went to a German school. I am German. There I learned about the Holocaust, about the systematic murder of Jews, Roma people, people described as deviant because of their sexuality, and people with mental disabilities. I wasn't told of the Namibian genocide a few decades earlier. I wasn't told about the many colonial genocides that the European colonial powers perpetrated. But again and again, I was told that the Holocaust was the worst crime in German history. I learned that Germany, as a people and as a country, had a responsibility before history to make sure something like the Holocaust would never happen again. Niemals wieder, nie wieder, never again. This was the bedrock of our moral education. I never thought, and we all never thought, that that should somehow be applied only to the Jewish people, and that it would be permissible somehow to do to others what Nazi Germany had done to the Jews. On the contrary, the genocide, the Convention for the Prevention of Genocide, was explicitly created to prevent genocides after the Holocaust. It applies to all. Never again applies to all. Nie wieder für alle. Nie wieder für Palestinians. Hier und heute, wir fordern die deutsche Regierung auf, ihrer juristischen und moralischen Pflicht nachzukommen, keine Völkermorde zuzulassen, keine Völkermorde, keine Aushungerungen, keine ethnischen Säuberungen und keine Vertreibungen zuzulassen. We demand of the German government to fulfill its legal and moral obligation to not allow genocides, to neither allow nor support genocide, forced starvation, ethnic cleansing, or forced displacement in Gaza or anywhere else. Germany, stop supporting genocide. Stop supporting genocide. This is our demand today. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine!
So next up, we have someone who has been active in Berlin for many years. Let's welcome up Mimi. Mimi is a representative of the Left Berlin.
Hello. Greetings from the Left Berlin. Left Berlin is a socialist news outlet based in Berlin. My name is Mimi. I was an editor on the website and am now living in New York. My comrades in Berlin have asked me to deliver this statement on their behalf. In 2021, Germany voted in a social democratic green liberal government. This was supposed to signal a shift to the left, but one of the first things the government did was double the military budget. They said the extra weapons were to help resistance in Ukraine. Today, German weapons are being used to crush the resistance in Palestine. And to that we say shame. Shame! Shame! The support of the German government for Israel surpasses that of all other world leaders. Chancellor Scholz recently called for mass deportations, particularly of Palestinians. Palestinian symbols are banned in schools, and migrants who already have a precarious residency status are the subject of prolonged attacks. At a demonstration last Sunday against the AfD, the police forcibly removed the Palestinian bloc from the demo. And to that we say shame. Shame! The attacks on migrants are an attempt to demonize them and separate them from white Germans. As internationals in Berlin, we are successfully fighting the strategy of divide and rule by politicians and the police. In a recent survey, for example, 61% of Germans said their government's behavior is not justified, and only 25% supported it. Nonetheless, many Germans are silent or say that the situation is too complicated. Well, the targeted bombing of schools and hospitals is not complicated, and you can't be silent in the face of genocide. Germans are slowly realizing this and are joining the worldwide movement for Gaza through demonstrations and university occupations. The artistic community, in particular, has been a central part of our resistance, having faced repression and cancellation for their support of Palestine. Last month, the Berlin government proposed a new law which denied all funding to any artists who did not support Israel. But we are winning. The Berlin government has just decided to withdraw that law. The resistance is growing. People are taking to the streets, even in Germany, and they are doing this because they are inspired by the mass actions in places like New York City. Whatever we do here makes the resistance in countries like Germany stronger. Never again for all. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Mimi. Now I will be reading a statement from Strike Germany. Who has heard of Strike Germany, that there's a cultural boycott of Germany happening? This is part of the larger movement of BDS to say shame to Germany. Let's hear it. Shame. Deutschland. Stoppt den Völkermord. So Strike Germany is a call for international cultural workers to strike from German cultural institutions. It is a call to refuse German cultural institutions' use of McCarthyist policies that suppress freedom of expression, specifically expressions of solidarity with Palestine. They say, as the genocidal campaign on Gaza continues, amounting to one of the deadliest assaults on a civilian population in our times. The German state has intensified the repression of its own Palestinian population and those who stand against Israel's war crimes. Palestine solidarity protests are mislabeled as anti-Semitic and banned. Activist spaces are raided by police, and violent arrests are frequent. This reactionary wave has also swept across the cultural sector and academia, resulting in a slew of firings, cancellations, public doxing, and outright censorship, effectively silencing any criticism of the Israeli state. Shame! The countless invisible instances of repression have been punctuated by high-profile scandals. The Palestinian novelist Adania Shibli disinvited from receiving the Literaturpreis at the Frankfurt Book Fair. Shame! Two major sponsors of the Hannah Arendt Prize withdrew their support after the recipient, Jewish-American writer Masha Gessen, published an article on Gaza. Shame! The Cultural Center Oyun was denied funding and forced to close for hosting an event by a group called Jüdische Stimme. Shame! The majority of those publicly targeted have been Palestinian, Arab, Black, Brown, and Jewish. Shame! While German weapons exports to Israel have increased tenfold since the start of the assault on Gaza, the German cultural and academic sector's complete reliance on public funds has increasingly transformed cultural production into an extension of state policy. Since the German parliament passed the 2019 anti-BDS resolution, shame, cultural institutions operate with the understanding that in Germany there is no space for solidarity with Palestine under threat of losing funding. German post-reunification remembrance culture, Erinnerungskultur, the state campaign to address Germany's genocide in the Holocaust, acts as a repressive dogma, reinvigorating the impression that real remembrance should work against. Rather than reckon with their own racist, increasingly neo-fascist politics, German media and politicians rush to blame Arab and Muslim populations in Germany for so-called imported anti-Semitism. Shame! Germany is not unique, but no other state has made an unconditional alliance with Israel its Staatsräson, raison d'etat, and a prerequisite for participation in public and cultural life. The German state cannot continue to consolidate further authoritarianism against voices opposed to racism, colonialism, and genocide. The time has come to strike Germany. So if you're a cultural worker, please go to www.strikegermany.org to sign on to the strike and withhold your support from Germany.
Alright guys, I'm going to end the stream here because I have to get ready for the 3 p.m. protest outside of APAC headquarters. I just want to remind you guys that you cannot rely on mainstream media, so it's crucial to support independent media. Support Status Coup. You know, this reporting is not easy. It's not cheap. It's expensive work. You know, and you know we do this for you guys, for the people. That's why I'm always out here. You know, everybody that works with us is always busy, always doing something, but you know, we do this for you guys, and so if you can, consider becoming a member. Go to statuscoup.com/join, sign up for $5 to $10 a month. Also, you could subscribe to this channel. You'll get notifications for when we do go live or when we do post videos. Alright, so I'm going to end here, 3 p.m. Eastern. I will be live again outside APAC headquarters. So make sure you subscribe and you'll get the notification. Alright guys, I'll see you later.